It is with great pleasure that we bring to you in episode 64 of Coffee with the Coach, the First Lady of Football in the UK. That's what I call her because she is awesome. Hannah Wilkes, welcome to the show, Hannah.
Jeff, it's so good to see you. I've missed you.
I missed you too. Lots been going on in your life, girl. Let's touch on the personal side as much as we can. You are now a Mrs., is that correct?
I'm married. It took a year longer than planned. About 4 attempts at a date, multiple rescheduling and rearranging. Thank you, COVID. But finally, got married. Happy days. So I'm now a very stable married woman.
That's awesome. I saw the pictures. It was a beautiful ceremony, and you look ravishing as always. Your husband looked proud and had a big smile on his face. So I know it's signs of many good years to come, as they say. Tell me what you've been doing, girl. Since the last time we sat on the couch together and talked football, what you've been doing? Netball? You've been all over the place.
I have been busy. So I think the Super Bowl happened, and then the 2020 Netball Super League season started literally the next weekend. I skipped the first weekend. I was like, guys, I need a moment. And then it was huge this year because of everything going on. Sky was showing every single game, which meant we had minimum 6 games a week. Sometimes we had 10 games a week. And I was at half of them, split them with another reporter, thankfully. So covered the netball, which was great. It was bigger than ever. We showed every game. It was brilliant to properly tell the story of the season. And then midway through that, managed to get married. Then that finished, and I covered the British and Irish Lions tour for TalkSport remotely. I didn't go to South Africa. I think I'd probably still be in quarantine if I had. But yeah, that was great fun as well because I grew up on rugby, so it was fantastic to get to work on the Lions. So yeah, it's been busy, and now the NFL's back, and I can't blooming wait.
All right, now let's talk about that because you grew up on rugby, but now have become, and I know from being on your show that you are not only a very devout NFL fan, you're a very knowledgeable NFL fan. When did you make the transition from rugby to football?
So rugby will always have a piece of my heart. That's not going away. I think it was kind of circumstance with work. So when I started working at Sky, I found myself working on the NFL games. I think there was one at Wembley that I was a runner at, which was the Bucks Bears game, which must have been 2011. So that's where I kind of got into it. I was like, okay, I like this sport. It's violent, it's physical, it's people smashing into each other, and the ball is a familiar shape. So yeah, it started from there really. In rugby, I still follow it. I'm Northampton girl through and through, so the Saints will always be my team. But yeah, it's now I have these two loves, and it was great to get back into rugby and give it my full attention because I love the NFL and I love doing my homework for it. You know that. But going back to something you grew up on where you don't have to think too much, you just know, it was good. It was good.
You know, when you watched your first games, what was your impression of the game? Obviously, you enjoyed the physical part of it. You've already said that, which was so similar to rugby. But was it like, what is this game going? And why do they stand around and talk to each other between plays? That's what I get a lot out of fans.
My initial thought was, what is going on? Because I had quite a bird's eye view from where I was at that Wembley game. Was very lucky to have it because I was helping out the Fox coverage. So I was literally like on the gantry, and it was like guys smashing into each other, chaos, and then a ball occasionally flying one direction, or didn't know what was going on. And once it was explained to me, and it's such a simple game, and I say this all the time to friends of mine who are getting more into it and family members who are getting more into it because of what I do. Like at its core, it's such a simple game, right? You've got 4 attempts to move 10 yards down the field, and you want to get across the line at the end and score some points. It's so simple. So that I think once that had been explained to me, I was like, right, okay, I get that idea of it now. And then you're not going to start looking at routes and schemes and all that to begin with. And what I love about the sport, and I've said this to a lot of people, it's the more you find out about it, the more you know about it, the more there is to learn. It's just endlessly fascinating, I think.
Okay, now you fell in love with the game. But what team, and I'm going to hold you to this now, what team has become Hannah Wilkes' team?
You know this. I'm a Rams fan.
I know that. I know you're a Rams fan, but I had to get you to say it on record.
And it's strange, isn't it? And I've talked about this to a few people. When you come to a sport late, it's like, oh my goodness, like what team am I going to root for? And I tried a few different teams on. One of my friends who lives out in the States and is a huge Steelers fan told me in no uncertain terms that I wasn't allowed to support the Patriots or Green Bay, which was a shame because for a while I was definitely leaning Packers. And then it was, as I started to get more and more into the sport, it's when like the All or Nothing and Hard Knocks were following the Rams, and they had the first round draft pick, Jared Goff, and there was all this excitement around them. And I just, watching those documentaries, you get to know them in a way that if you haven't been brought up on the sport, you kind of need that connection, I think, with the people involved. And now I'm trying to convert anyone to the Ramily that I can.
Oh, okay, now, can Matthew Stafford be that missing ingredient that gets the Rams back to the Super Bowl? What's your take?
I hope so. I've spent a lot of time over the last 6 months thinking about this. And the Rams were so close last year and the defense was so good. I don't think the defense will be quite where it was last year because defense fluctuates so much, right? So much more than the offense. But I hope so. I can't wait to actually see him out on the field and see what he's doing because, he had some great seasons earlier on in his career. And we know he struggled in Detroit and he hasn't had much to sort of play with and much opportunity there. So I really hope it's a case of in the right scheme with, some receivers at his disposal, bit of a run game going as well. It's kind of like a fingers crossed, like it has to work, right? For what the Rams have given up and what they're swallowing financially between the Goff trade and getting Ramsey and all the rest of it. Like it really has to work. Like it's boom or bust. It really is.
Well, I think it's interesting. They sit very much in the Super Bowl window, and this, I think, I agree with you. I think this could be the guy that is the missing ingredient. And, certainly with Sean McVay and that crew of receivers on an offensive line, which is much better than he's ever played in front of at Detroit, I think he's going to have a great year. Let's talk about great years because it will be a great year in 2021 if you tell me that your show is back on Sky, because I think that show is pure genius. It is gold. I love it to pieces. And I'm not saying that because I've been on it. I'm saying it because I really, really think that is a fantastic show that you guys do.
No inherent bias there at all, because you were literally part of the show for the back third of the season. Yes, Overtime is coming back, and Overtime is going to be bigger and better than before. So Overtime is now going to be on a Thursday night. With Inside the Huddle moving to Tuesday to sort of like look back at the game, so take a more in-depth look at highlights. So Overtime will be Thursday. We'll be looking ahead to the games coming up. We'll be taking a big look. We'll be doing a lot on fantasy football because across Sky we're going big in on fantasy football this season, and it gives us a really exciting platform to do that with the likes of Kay Adams, who obviously we spoke to so much last year, and everything else. And because we're a little bit later in the week, there's some extra fun stuff we can weave in from what's happened the previous weekend's games. So yeah, we are back, and I cannot wait.
All right, now that's the ultimate teaser. Like there's some fun stuff. Can you give us any more details than that?
I don't know if I can at the moment. Like it's just this more stuff available to us. Like mic'd up players. We get all that footage later in the week, and that kind of stuff is gold for a show like Overtime. So I think we'll be using more of that, more social media reaction. And I'm so excited for us to go big on fantasy because, as you well know, I'm not good at fantasy football, but my God, am I enthusiastic and do I enjoy. So really excited that we get to lean into that a bit more. And hopefully Runs Like a Girlie will come good this year.
You know what? I tell you, another thing that is actually gold is television gold is the interaction that you have with Kay Adams from NFL Network, who does a little segment with you every show, and it is really, really good. Talk about your relationship with Kay and how you guys have kind of developed that chemistry between yourselves.
Yeah, it's so lovely. It's so exciting. Obviously, like every NFL fan in the UK, now we have the channel. Watch Good Morning Football is on every day in my house. I used to watch it on Game Pass before we had it on Sky. So it was really cool. And the first time that we were going to be talking to Kay Adams, oh my goodness, this is Kay Adams, a bit like fangirl worshiping, like play it cool, Hannah, play it cool. And what's great is that and you find this with so many of the people who are on NFL Network or involved in any capacity in broadcasting the States, they're so excited by how much more attention the sport's getting over here now. So they're really excited to be a part of it, and they're so impressed with the passion and the knowledge of all the fans. So yeah, Kay giving up her time every week was great, and it started off quite businessy, and then by the end of the season, we had the producer being like, "Guys, we actually need to talk about football now because me and her are just there having a discussion and complimenting each other's hair and outfit choices and all the rest of it." So no, she's been great, and it's been so wonderful to have her part of the show. So excited to have her back with us as much as we can this season, because my goodness, she's a busy woman.
Now, when you get out in public, Hannah, and you're around doing your Hannah Wilkes thing, how much do you see women in public maybe stop you on the street and say, hey, I really enjoy what you're doing with the NFL. I never watched the NFL, but now when I watch overtime, I understand the game. Thank you so much. Because I know that happens. And I know people have stopped me and said, wow, Hannah really does know her stuff. And I said, you're darn right. So do you get that? Or do you feel like there's a growing fandom amongst women in the UK?
I think there is. And it's interesting. It's been hard over the last year as well. And everyone's so locked down, there's been less chances for interaction. But just in social media interactions, the amount of women I get messaging me on Instagram and Twitter just saying, I love this sport, I love what you're doing, and it's so great to see a woman doing that. And even just friends of mine who flicked overtime on because as loyal friends they want to watch what I'm doing, and now they're getting into the sport and they're like, oh, actually it is inclusive and it is for everyone, and it's huge. And we've seen it on our show on Overtime. We've had Phoebe Schechter on the show so many times, we've had Kay all the time, and I definitely see it more on social media, people getting in touch and really finding it inspiring and asking for advice and all the rest of it. And it's great to see, because when I started in TV and when I started getting into the sport, there wasn't really anyone that I sort of could model a path on or look to in terms of what they're doing. There are some great female broadcasters that have dipped in and out of the NFL because of how it's been covered in the UK for so long. So it's really exciting, I think, and it'll never cease to amaze me how many male members of the world will ask me if I actually like the sport, but I'm sure at some point we'll move past that and it'll all be good. I had someone go, well, don't people just tell you what to say? And I was like, oh, it'll make my job a lot easier if someone did, but sadly no. But hey, we'll get there.
So if somebody wants to follow you on social media, somebody wants to tune into the show, tell us how they can tune in, because like I say, Overtime, excuse me.
Overtime, Jeff, we've been through
I know. That's a mental thing. I do that all the time. But where can they get the show? How do they follow you? How do they stay in tune with what's going on with Hannah Wilkes?
So me personally, I'm on Twitter and Instagram, same handle at Hannah J Wilkes, and that's Wilkes with an E before the S, very important. And the show Overtime, Sky Sports NFL, Thursday evening, 9:00. Get on your planner, series link it, and it's repeated as well throughout the weekend.
Awesome. All right, now we always play this little game with everybody that comes on the show. We play a little word association at the end of the interview, and so I'm going to throw a few names at you, and then I want you to tell me what's the first thing you think of when you hear this name. Right?
Oh no, I'm suddenly really
I'm going to go easy on you now.
I feel like it's going to be some psychology, psychiatry insight.
No. Don't worry about any of that. Let me start with one that would be really, I'm throwing you a real softball here now. All right. Johnny Wilkinson.
Legend. Legend. Hero.
All right. Let's go with another one. Jared Goff.
Oh, I was going to say let down, but I feel bad for saying that because actually, he did so well at the Rams for several seasons, and then it just reached a point, didn't it, after that Super Bowl? It just, I like Jared Goff. I want only good things for him. Carry on.
Cooper Kupp.
Catching. I love Cooper Kupp. I have a Cooper Kupp jersey upstairs. I love him. I think he's an underrated, overlooked wide receiver in the league. I really do.
All right. Aaron Donald.
Beast.
All right. The last one, the final one, Sean McVay.
Energetic. He's like a little Duracell bunny, isn't he? Did you watch, like, if you watched Hard Knocks last year, he was just like bouncing all the time. I was like, he must be exhausting to live with.
Oh, that's awesome. Hannah, it is so good to catch up with you and have you on the show. Thank you so much for giving us this time. And all of you viewers and listeners out there, you've got to check out her show, Overtime. And it is absolute NFL gold. It is fun. It's informative. It's got a really awesome fantasy angle to it. And there's some serious football being spoke on that show every week. So catch up with Hannah on her show on Sky Sports NFL. And Hannah, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you again real soon.
Thanks, Coach. Can't wait to see you.
All right, girl. You take care. Aloha. Thank you. Michael, we are going back live, are we not?
We are next week, Jeff. I think we haven't really talked about this yet, but yes, I think the plan is to go back live next week because, we're just such busy people, Jeff. Obviously, you're a coordinator in the CFL, and I'm just going back to work next week, so we have to go live. I can't do this at 11 a.m. anymore in the morning. So yes.
Well, you know what? I'm actually glad we're going back live because I really enjoy the live interaction with the fans and getting the fans on the show. And you did a great job of getting some questions out from the fans out around the world. And let's dive back into that mailbag, if you want to call it that, and take a few questions from the viewers.
Let's go for it. We'll get the day and the time of going live ASAP. Let's have a look. Okay, first one from Barry, who is in Ireland. Is a Jamal Adams scenario of threatening to see himself as a LB purely to get more money on the franchise tag something that could happen more with defensive players or safeties in particular?
I think this is a trend. I really do think it's a trend. I think you've seen it already on the offensive side of the football, where a guy at tight end, for example, who plays detached a certain number of plays a game, where he's not as a true inline tight end, when it comes down to contract negotiations, they see themselves as receivers, or they want to be categorized as receivers because under the tag and under the salary structure, the way it works, a receiver is a more valuable position than a tight end. I think it's certainly going to happen because these guys recognize that they have a very short shelf life to earn money. And Adams, I think, has an argument because you look at him and what would you pay for a 9-sack a year defensive lineman compared to a safety? And I think that when you look at production, and this is interesting about the way contracts work, you're always working on a contract based upon what your previous performance is, not your performance today. And so for him, you look at what he did when he came to the Hawks, and he was able to generate pass rush when they had absolutely none. I think he's earning every penny that he's getting in Seattle.
The next one is from Alan Woods, who is part of the Un-American Football Show. I think you've been on that show before. He was saying that you told him a story about drinking mojitos in Miami with Patrick. If you could pick another quarterback one to go for a drink with, who would it be? Where would it be? And what would be the drink? I mean, that's a good question, Jeff.
There's a whole bunch of them, man. I think I'd like to be in New York City in 1969, drinking martinis with Joe Namath. I think that'd be a pretty good way to start. I think I'd like to be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the 70s, drinking beer with Terry Bradshaw. I think I'd like to have been today. I'd really like to sit down with Matt Stafford. I really would enjoy, I think, sitting down with Matt Stafford and having a cool one and talking football and talking his experience with the Lions and how refreshing it must be to be out on the left coast and, playing with all those great receivers and Sean McVay and a much better offensive line than he's had in front of him before. I've sat and talked with Troy Aikman, so that's one I've already done. There's so many of those guys, those character quarterbacks that you'd love to just have had an opportunity to share time with. Dan Marino in Miami, maybe drink a mojito or two with Dangerous Dan in his heyday. So that's a long, tall order, man. I tell you what, you got to hit a lot of places and with a lot of quarterbacks.
Well, definitely invite me along if you are going for.
You know, baby.
Paul Stewart from Glasgow. He's part of the UK Cowboys. Paul's going to kill me here because I can't pronounce this player's name. How do you see Osa? I'm just going to spell it Odighiziuwa. Odigala fit in the Cowboys with Gallimore out 4 to 6 weeks. How do you think Osa has progressed? Have you been able to catch much of his action?
Yeah, I watched a little bit, and I'll tell you what, losing Gallimore is going to hurt him. And I thought Gallimore was a really good pick when they took him out of Oklahoma. I thought, here's a kid that can line up inside and give him that one gap, vertical rush that they needed. He's a very good athlete. He's a Canadian kid, by the way. And it was tough to watch him go down because he dislocated that elbow. And obviously that's going to be a while before he can get back, because that's such a critical part of a defensive lineman's repertoire, is the ability to extend your hands and lock out and do all that. It's going to create a gap. There's no question about it. I think that the young kid has grown. I think he's getting better with every rep. I think that, Quinn has done already you can start to see the improvement in that defense in preseason. I know it's preseason, but they tackle better. They run to the ball better. They look like they know what they're doing. You don't see the gross mistakes that you saw in the back end, even in preseason last year with the Cowboys. So I think Cowboy defense is headed in the right direction. And again, how soon they can get Gallimore back is going to be a big plus for them.
We've 3 or 4 more questions. We'll try and get through quickly enough. Thanks everybody for your questions. Brad from London has noted, obviously, tough enough start for you guys in the CFL with the Tigercast so far, but obviously, Jeff, you guys are going to bounce back on the Grey Cup. Are the guys in good spirits? Does training camp differ when things aren't going so well, or is it sort of, does it almost stay the same because that quality is there and you just continue to believe and keep going to that next step?
Brad, that's a really, really good question. And this is something that every team faces. And, we say it to the players all the time. From the very first meeting I have with them, I say, one of the things I say to them is, I can guarantee you one thing, and one thing only in professional football, that you're going to face adversity. We're getting ours early in the season. We've got a starting left tackle who was nominated for the most outstanding offensive lineman of the year, out, hasn't played. Defensive tackle hasn't played. Safety hasn't played. Our best receiver hasn't played. So you look at our football team, we haven't put our football team on the field yet. So when we get those guys back and healthy, I think we'll be fine. And about how does the training differ, it really shouldn't differ at all. Again, because we talk all the time about how important it is that you just work. The Japanese have a saying for it, kaizen, which means slow, steady, small incremental improvement. And we're looking for that every time we go out on the practice field. If you ride the wave of, winning, losing, over the 16, 17, 18 game schedule that you play in pro football, you're psychologically worn out. You got to understand that not too high when you win, not too low when you lose. Always look at the facts and deal only with the facts. I call it reading the news. And I get up in front of players after a game and I said, okay, fellas, I'm going to read you the news. No emotion, no agenda, just, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we did. This is where we have to improve. And let's go about getting it done. And I think when you have that kind of approach, you can weather the storm of a couple bad weeks and come out of it okay.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if your game on Saturday morning next week is on BT Sport, but I'll find out. It's not on the schedule yet. Maybe I'll be 3 in a row, so maybe Coffee with Coach is having the effect over here that we all want and love. Jeff, another Jeff, GEOFF from Ireland, Galway, Ireland. Who does Jeff think will ultimately end up being the starting quarterback? Mac Jones Mac Jones. I watched the game last night. Mac Jones made a couple of really nice passes. He looks. I think he can start, Jeff. I don't know you, but I think Mac Jones could be starting week 1.
I think it's really, really interesting now. And you notice that Cam last night against Philadelphia had his best game in a long time. Threw the ball more than he's ever thrown the ball in preseason, completed a high percentage of his passes, looked comfortable in the pocket, looked comfortable with the decision-making. That Patriot offense, I think, has come a million miles in the offseason. I think either of those two guys could start. I think probably we'll see Cam early on And then if it doesn't go according to plan, you'll see Mac Jones. But I think right now, if you're the Patriots, you got to feel pretty good about the fact that what you're starting to see from Cam Newton is what you wanted to see from Cam Newton when you brought him in last year. You're starting to see progress at wide receiver, at tight end. The young running back, I think, has been phenomenal during preseason. So you feel good about your running game. And, the guy that you drafted to be the quarterback of the future really has shown signs that he could be that guy. Now, when they give him the keys to the car and say drive, we'll see. But I think right now it would be Cam's job to lose.
Last one. We'll try and get just this last one in. Thanks for everybody asked the questions. Fred Flunk, missed your question last week. Fred, sorry. Who do you think will be the biggest name to get whacked at roster cuts?
Ooh, oh boy, that's a tough one because you see. How about, hey, you know what? This is
well, isn't it?
How about what happened to the long snapper in Detroit? All right. Now, I the kid's name evades me right now, but their long snapper, he's been there for 20 years. I think 20 years. It's like he's one of the longest serving long snappers in the National Football League. Yesterday is his birthday. And guess what he got for a birthday present? A pink slip. he got the call.
It's Dawn. I can't pronounce his surname. M-U-H. Mulbach. It's
Mulbach.
I can't pronounce it. Mulbach. Yeah.
Don Mulbach.
40th birthday.
Yeah. And for his birthday, what's he get? That call that nobody wants to get, which is, hey, you need to go see Coach Campbell and bring your playbook. And so he, gets cut on his birthday. And I'm going to tell you something. Tell me this isn't a hard business, man. I mean, but who's going to be the biggest name cut? That's really, really interesting. And I think this round of preseason games. So if you get the network, or if you're a Sky subscriber, make sure you tune into this round of preseason games, because this is the round. This is the round where you want to see your football team perform. That's why, again, for the Patriots last night, I think you got to feel really good. They went into, they just pounded Philadelphia. I mean, pounded them. And Philadelphia looked bad. Obviously, Hurts didn't play because of a stomach virus, but it was interesting that the Eagle fans, they're in midseason form because they booed their team off the field. So they can boo with nobody in the National Football League. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and just what you're saying there, Cardinals Chiefs is at 1 a.m. UK Ireland time tonight. It's on Sky Sports. If it isn't, I'm sorry, but I'm like 99% sure it is without checking. But yeah, it's great to see preseason football on Sky Sports as well. It won't be too long, Jeff, until you're back on the screens at Sky Sports on a weekly basis again. But yeah, so I guess to round up, we're planning to go back live again next week at some time. I think the thing that we have to find for people watching as well is, you're busy with your team as well, but we'll find a time and we'll get people to put their questions in both beforehand on live, and maybe try and get some fans involved as well and get fun.
Well, I tell you what, that's the thing that we've always said, you and I, when we first started talking about where we wanted this show to go, was that to make it more interactive, make it more fan friendly, get more fans on the show, because it's really, the game's about the fans. It's not about us. It's about the fans. And it's, that's the direction we want to go. So if you're a member of the tribe, or if you want to be a member of the tribe, or if you're becoming a member of the tribe, get on with us live. We love to hear your takes. We love to hear your questions. Thank you very much for everybody. Mahalo nui loa for everybody that gave us a question today, that took the time to give us a take, a hit, a rant, whatever it is. We're always taking them, and we're glad to be the show that's the most fan interactive in all of the NFL community.
Yes, sir, Jeff. I'll see you next week then live, and we'll confirm the time ASAP. Yeah, check the schedule.
All right, my brother. Take care. It's been fantastic as always. Keep watching Sky Sports NFL, and keep it right here for next week, the 65th edition of Coffee with the Coach.